Hello, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Good morning here from California. Good evening to people in Europe and the UK. This is Talking Devils. I'm in a very jolly mood today, as you can hear. I'm joined once again by my co-host, former Manchester United centre back and current third round, awaiting the third round draw for Morecambe, Mr. Scott Wootton. Scott, how are you this week? Obviously buzzing after yesterday.
Yeah, it was a potential banana skin, but we managed to get through it. The weather was the coldest I've ever been in my life, probably. Up in Buxton, apparently it was the highest stand or highest football club in the country, where it isn't, right in the middle of the country, up high in the mountains. So yeah, it was absolutely freezing, windy, rainy. Wasn't ideal, but yeah, we managed to get the win and through to the next round. So as you said, then anything can happen. So bring on.
Come on.
Yeah, it'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
Number 48, I was watching today. That's the ball number you have. I think United are like 47, I believe, or 46. They're in around the 40. So I want a Manchester United Morecambe game at Old Trafford. How great would that be?
Yeah, that'd be great. It'd be superb.
Anyway, speaking of Manchester United, one of the reasons why we're here. Manchester United 1, Crystal Palace 0. I want to talk about that game in a few minutes, but I wanted to just take a quick look back at the Arsenal game real quick. Manchester United 3, Arsenal 2. Michael Carrick's last game as the interim coach until the interim coach came in, signed off in a great way. The problem player, Ronaldo, got 2 goals. What a terrible problem to have. What did you make of? I just want to briefly talk about the Arsenal game real quick. What did you make of his, Carrick's selection? There's a lot of media hype and talk about the fact that it was actually Rangnick's team. We seem to play a little bit differently. A win in the end, and Arsenal are on a high at the moment, so it's not to be laughed at. We're not very good at home at the moment. So what did you make of the overall team that day before we move on to the Crystal Palace? I mean, like I said, Ronaldo got 2, Manchester United won 3-2. A little bit more pressing in that game. Fred, my favourite player, had a really good game, and that continued today. So quick overview of the United-Arsenal game there.
Yeah, no, I thought, like you say, I think Arsenal had been in really good form, so it was a really good win. Second half, especially, I thought they were outstanding. Man United, the way they pressed, they had complete control of the game. They could have scored more, I feel. Yeah, I thought Fred, especially in the second half, was brilliant. He gave it away cheaply a couple of times in the first half, but we seem to be a bit accustomed to that. But yeah, Ronaldo scores 2. He seems to just love that attention, doesn't he? People who say he's going to be a problem, he's going to be this, he's going to be that, if he keeps producing the goods like he does. And it's almost like he's flicked the switch, in both. Even in the second half of that Arsenal game, there's question marks over his pressing, and even from myself last week, can he do it? Because we've never really seen him do it before. Never done it at Real Madrid, Juventus, or even in his early days at United. But you see him now in both games today and against Arsenal, the way he was sprinting and pressing. It's like Ralf Rangnick just seems to flick the switch on him. Interesting you say about the same team. Like you say, it makes you think that maybe he did pick that side in midweek, because he was announced, but he didn't take the game. And yet it's been a good week, 6 points from 6. Like you say, the home form hasn't been good. Arsenal have been in good form. Also, Crystal Palace are a decent side as well under Vieira. They've improved a lot off the back of the last few seasons. Very strange first goal, obviously, in the Arsenal game with De Gea being on the floor. That was a bit of a weird one, wasn't it?
And I'd like to stop you there real quick, though. I didn't see anything wrong with the goal, I'll be honest with you. It was one of those things, but here's where I have a little bit of a gripe. 99.9% of the time when a goalkeeper hits the deck, regardless of what's happened, whether his own centre-half punches him in the head, Fred stands on him, or someone fouls him, the referee, for most of the games I've seen, always blows the whistle. And we always say that the goalkeepers are overprotected. I mean, I'm sure you've been very frustrated about being a centre-back coming up for corners and free kicks. You can't even breathe on the keeper and the referee blows the whistle. Why didn't the referee blow the whistle in this case? That's the only bit of frustration I have.
The only thing I could think is maybe because of how it happened, and David De Gea is obviously right at the back of a pack as it gets clear. He just mustn't have been able to see it. And then the only time I'm guessing the referee would have seen De Gea on the floor is when the ball's hit the net, and it was just that weird sort of.
What's he doing there?
Yeah, weird noise, and you could see even the players' reaction as they turned around. It was almost like, yeah, what's he doing? And then I'm guessing, obviously, every goal gets checked, doesn't it? They've had a look at it. They've seen it was his own player, and there's just absolutely nothing wrong with the goal, like you
And
said.
rightly so. There was nothing wrong with the goal.
No,
But
there was nothing wrong with that.
in the heat of the moment, the heat of battle, when a goalkeeper normally hits the ground, and we know they use that a lot, where they'll come out and they'll, they know they're not going to get the ball, so they'll fly their arms and throw them up in the air, pretend they've been, nudged. The referee always gives a free out. This was just very bizarre, and I'm on the same thing as you. The only reasoning that I can see is that he just didn't see it, and he turned around, he seen the keeper on the ground and the ball in the net, and he was thinking, oh God, what's going on here? And then he's gone to look at VAR, and that's why he's called it.
Yeah, but the protection they've got now, not the protection, but the good use the referees have got now is everything goes to every goal gets checked. So they would have looked at it clearly. Obviously, seen a keeper on the floor, seen what happened. His own player stood on him.
Of all the players, huh?
On the floor, yeah. But no, do you know what? I think he's done really well, Fred.
He was.
Today, I thought he was really, really good. And it just could be as simple as a new manager has a slight tweak in how he wants to play that just suits a player perfectly down to the ground. It can be that easy. He obviously gets a tough time off most of the fans, but managers always pick him. Mourinho played him. Ollie's always pretty much.
He's in the Brazil 11 every game.
Yeah. So it must be doing. We obviously do something that is a huge value to these top coaches and managers.
Moving on to the Crystal Palace game, and to start off with Fred, one of the things that I did notice about Fred's game is that over the past couple of games he tends to be a bit more advanced in midfield. He seems to be more involved that way. Is it as simple as that, as taking him from that really defensive midfield role and pushing him up slightly? Because his last two games, let's be honest. Now, we're looking at this from a Fred level. We're not saying that he's a Kante or a Makaleli. We're just saying from his level that he was at, he's definitely improved. Now, you mentioned earlier on, still a few stray balls, and the coach mentioned that, the manager mentioned that in his press conference after he actually called it out. He said, Scotty and Fred, basically what he said was that they passed a few square balls, and he doesn't like that. And that's one part of the game he's going to try and, help them with. Music to my ears, because Fred is the biggest culprit for that. The hospital balls. He gives 2 or 3 every single game, and you're baffled by it. You're like, listen, I didn't play football at any level. I played football, Sunday League, that was it. But everyone knows you don't give square passes the way he does. And if you do it once, your head's so wrapped around it, you don't do it again. He does it 2 or 3 times a game. The manager called it out today, but music to my ears that the manager is actually looking at that. Let's talk about Fred for a moment. Huge improvements, right? And then that goal, I couldn't believe it. I was like, what just...
I would love to see your reaction.
It was like, obviously I'm waiting for... an offside, a flag, and he just hit it with, screw it, I'll just hit it anyway. And then, like, an absolute rifle of a goal. Couldn't have put it any better. Let's have some Fred time here for a moment. I think that I think with the new manager and he's slightly changing his role and moving him forward a little bit, I think that's helped him. I'm not saying that all of a sudden Fred's the best player in England. I'm just saying there's a little bit of hope there. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And it can be, players, especially by these top coaches, they will get specific instructions. So I think the way probably Ralf Rangnick wants to play the game, he wants to press much higher up the pitch. That will naturally advance the midfielders from where they are. So even when Fred does pick the ball, if United win the ball, whereas in the past, say they were winning the ball midway through in their own half, if he gives it away in that area and it's closer to the United goal, the fans jeers louder, there's more panic. Whereas if he's 50, 60 yards high up the pitch in and around the opposition's box or halfway in their half, and you give it away there, it's not actually too bad. Say it's not too bad. Obviously, you don't want to give it away, but there's a lot more. There's less panic. Obviously, there's the natural frustration. Yeah. But it looks to me clearly that the manager's obviously said to him, look, I don't want you to sit in alongside Scott. I know you want to be a sort of number 6 player as you like it with the 2 midfielders, but you can have a bit more of a license maybe to press high up the pitch, and that might suit Fred down to the ground. That might, I've never seen him play for Brazil, I'll be honest, but he might play a similar role for Brazil maybe, and it just suits him, like I say. But I always feel Fred's at his best, and we spoke about this before, Dave, in a Man City away.
Yeah.
He was outstanding one year, a couple of years back. In the Liverpool games, he always seems to do well. It's almost like when he struggles when the onus is on him as a deep lying central midfield player
Yep.
to play cute, intricate passes, thread balls through. When teams defend deep and get a lot of men behind the ball, and he's sort of coming onto the game, he's got sort of 9, 10 players to break down when he's on the ball. That's always seems to be when he struggles. So when now he's playing a more high energetic game further up the pitch, and that might not be his role or his job, then you eliminate them mistakes, and all of a sudden you're looking at a much better Fred.
Switching to the fullbacks, Tellez and Dalot had an absolutely fantastic game today. They played well in midweek. Are we looking at a situation now where, I know it's healthy to have, some kind of challenge to your position, because Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw have had no challenges at all over the past year and a half. They got rewarded for poor performances. Now, that said, Luke Shaw has been immense up until the start of this season when he came back in the Euros. And you and I discussed this in the previous show. He looks tired. He looks, he just doesn't look the same player. Now that there's pressure on them, are we going to see, how difficult is it going to be for those two guys to get back in now?
Well, I don't think for the next game they probably do. The only thing I would say on that is the way, again, the new manager seems to have his new style of play is going to be there's going to be a lot more sprints, a lot more high intensity running. They're going to be pressing a lot higher up the pitch. I do think that'll suit Luke Shaw's game. I think I remember him when he first came played for Southampton, when he first came to United before he had that tough injury. That's what he was. You can see him sprinting down the left-hand side, making overlaps, really attacking. That's his game. That's his strength. Obviously, Mourinho hung him out to dry many a times about his defensive capabilities. But I think the credit to the two fullbacks who are in the team at the minute, Tellez and Diego Dalot, both playing really, really well. And I think that's what a new manager can do. When a new manager comes in, it's a clean slate for a lot of these players. So them two players haven't played a lot of football under Ollie. All of a sudden, the new guy comes in. They're making first impressions. You know what it's like in any job, right? Someone comes in and you get a chance, and nothing, whatever's gone before is irrelevant now. And credit to them. I'm sure they're firmly in the manager's plans now for short term and long term.
Alanga came on today. He just got dropped straight in, and he came on. So that line in the sand. My only hope is that when they draw that line, they actually go around Phil Jones and then continue the line. So I'm not a big Phil. I feel for the guy. I think his confidence is gone. I think putting him into the Manchester United team right now is not going to do him any good whatsoever. I think he's going to be. It'll destroy him. I think he just needs to. I'm not even sure whether he could manage another Premier League team. I think, unfortunately for Phil Jones, I think he needs to drop down the Championship and try and regain some confidence to get back into it. I do believe at some point he could play in a Premier League team again, but I think if he came back into Manchester United's team now, whatever confidence he's built up will get completely ravished by playing in the first team, and especially with our current problems. And speaking of current problems at the back, we have Harry Maguire and Lindelof. We're pretty solid today, but there's always that fear, do we just keep motoring the way we are until we can get Varane back? I think it's just so dangerous.
Yeah, no, I think you have to. I think, maybe the new manager might like to look at Bailly with his bit more pace, bit more athleticism, maybe for his how, if the team's going to be pressing high, that'll automatically bring the back four a lot higher. We know that Lindelof and Maguire aren't blessed with pace, but obviously, like I say, the manager will be looking at this in training. I think Rafa Varane, obviously, he's him and Van Dijk are the best two centre backs in the world, just in my opinion. So I think when he's going to play when he's fit, I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think he'd be the number one choice. I know Maguire's captain, and he's got a much bigger price tag, but based on the CV, based on their attributes, I think Varane is the number one choice for what he's done in the game. I think he'll solve a lot of issues again with his physical stature, his athleticism, his experience. But yeah, no, credit to the two lads today. I thought they played well. It's a clean sheet. That's huge for the confidence of defenders as well. So yeah, I think for the time being, keep motoring on. And it's not been great between the pair over the last couple of seasons. I do think they're both very, very good players. I just don't think both of them together sort of complement each other. Whereas I think Varane, with his pace and his experience playing with Ian.
He's just. I mean, he's a Rolls Royce of a centre back, isn't he? He's just there at the right time, at the right moment. He can just read a game so well. He knows where the striker's going to go. He knows where the ball's going to go. And there's not many players, like you said, Van Dijk, Varane. There's one or two of them out there that just, he reminds me a lot of Paul McGrath in regard to his positional sense. He just knows where the ball's going to be, and he's going to be there.
That's experience, isn't it? That's experience.
It is.
The amount of, what's he won, 4 Champions Leagues, 3 Champions Leagues,
yeah,
in the La Liga, World Cup with France. You can't buy that experience.
Let's move up the pitch a little bit and discuss Marcus Rashford for a minute. Marcus Rashford last year played with shoulder injury, and you gave us some good feedback on that a few shows back about when, especially at that level, if your shoulder's at you, any part is at you, and you're carrying pain in a game, it can definitely affect you. He's had the surgery. He's come back. I'll be honest with you, Marcus Rashford, for me, still his decision making. For a player that's been in the first team 4 or 5 years now, his decision making is still very poor. But one thing that he's actually, unfortunately brought to his game this season seems to be he gets caught offside a lot. Is it the fact that defenders are just getting wise to him, and they know he's going to hang on that last second because he's a pacey forward. He's waiting for that ball to be whipped over. He hasn't been the Marcus Rashford we've seen in the past. I mean, what's your views on Marcus Rashford? Does he even deserve a starting place in this team right now? Jadon Sancho, 60, 70 minutes today. I thought it was very unfortunate to come off. I really did. I thought he had a fantastic game. But I understood why he came off, because there's a balance there. Is Rashford lucky to be getting into this team at the moment now that Greenwood is back?
Yeah, maybe so. I think one of the problems with Rashford would be with that injury, he's missed pre-season. And listen, any football player will tell you, if you miss pre-season, it's just so difficult because you're always playing catch-up with your fitness levels. And I think that would probably play a part in his decision-making, because you'd mentally be tired because he's physically tired. When you get physically tired and your fitness levels aren't up to scratch, your concentration levels go a bit, your focus goes a bit. This might play a part in that split, especially at that top level. It's split-second decisions, isn't it? And things happen so fast. It could be affecting him ever so slightly, because when everyone else is doing the full pre-season, they're playing the first few games of the season, they're getting pre-season games. Now they're all at the top ultimate fitness levels, but it's because he's missed all that.
Yeah,
he might not look it, but mentally and physically he'll be quite a lot behind, really. I'm sure he's a fit lad. I'm sure he looks after himself. He's got a great physique.
Yep.
But that running in your lungs and that fitness, then that rhythm of playing games week in, week out, he'll be lacking in that. And I think that'll play a part in his confidence, in his it's definitely in his decision making, because, like I say, when you get physically tired, your concentration levels go ever so slightly, and at the top level, that's one of the biggest things for me, concentration.
Cristiano Ronaldo didn't score today. What an outrage! The problem child didn't score today, but one thing that he brought to his game today, and we've seen, as you said earlier on, we've seen it in parts against Arsenal, but today even more so, is. And we talked about this only last week, and we were discussing with Wayne that Ronaldo is not the pressing player, never was, never has been. Now, all of a sudden, he is that type of pressing centre forward. Is this something he can bring to his game at 36 years of age? Because today he was really impressive. He was all over the park. Yeah. That final third, anytime anyone got the ball, your defender, the keeper, he was on them. We did talk about this, though, saying that it could take a little bit of spark out of his game in that 89th minute where, he rushes in, and gets ahead of the striker because he's conserved his energy for it, throughout the game. But today, the pressing game didn't seem to pass by him at all.
No, it's been amazing, really, hasn't it? Like for all what we said last week, like you say. But we're only going off what we've seen in the past, well, his whole career.
Yeah.
He never was that player at Man United. He certainly wasn't that player at Real Madrid. I know people will argue and say Spanish football is completely different. No one really played. Only sort of Pep Guardiola's Barcelona teams really pressed like that. At Real Madrid, in the Spanish league especially, they probably got 60%, 70% of possession most weeks, so he probably doesn't need to do that. Similar at Juventus. And, maybe, there's no doubt if he's pressing all of a sudden at 36, how this manager will want him to press, it will definitely take a little spark out of his game because he hasn't done it, like we say, for what, 15 years, 10 years, 15 years. So I'd be amazed if he can keep that maximum concentration, that them sharpness up, because he's been that good a player. And I said it last week, it's the same as Messi. They conserve their energy for the decisive moments. They want to be the players who make the difference, and right, that's why they've been the two best players, because they constantly make the difference in the biggest games, and they're always fresh. They're never tired, and obviously that comes at a slight detriment to this. You know, everyone's making a big fuss about the pressing, but he's never done that. But like you say, off the back of the last two games, he is doing it, and it's like, wow, he's 36.
What's going on here?
It's you know, everyone knows how well he looks after himself and his physique and his diet and his recovery and all that. It's incredible, really. But you know, he'll adapt to the training regime under the new manager, and it might just be as simple as the manager might just be having to say to him, "Look, listen, this is how." Showing video clips possibly of teams, of how he's managed, how they play. This is what my striker does. This is what you've got to do to play in my team. And
would you think he's concerned about Cavani? Because, you know, Cavani he's the ideal striker for that type of play.
No, I don't think Ronaldo strikes me as the type of person who's not concerned about
anybody.
Probably except Messi. But even that, he's probably that confident in himself that he believes, well, we know he believes he's the best in the world. So I think he'll have that arrogance in a good way, and that belief that he's the number one striker, and that's that. No doubts about it.
Moving on to the next couple of weeks, and I don't want to be disrespectful to any of the teams that we're going to be playing, but Rangnick has come in at a perfect time for him as a manager.
Nice list, isn't it? Yeah, seen it earlier.
I'm looking at, we got young boys on, you know, we've a dead rubber on Wednesday, but, you know, you always want to win that. Then we're away to Norwich, we're away to Brentford. You know, the Christmas period has been kind to us in regard to teams. Home to Brighton, away to Newcastle, home to Burnley, home to Wolves. I don't want to say none of these are tough games, but the toughest game I can see on the horizon, there's two. Newcastle away, because, you know, they're starting to not hit a bit of form, but they've a new manager. There's a lot of pressure on them to get some wins. That's always a tough place to go anyway. And Aston Villa against Slippy G on January 15th. That's probably, like I said, no disrespect to any of the other teams, but he's come in at the right time. Is it the right time that he's coming in? That's the question. I mean, we got a lot of games over.
I think I seen that fixture. I think it was yesterday. I seen his run of games, and I don't think if you were to wish for a run of fixtures to come in as Man United manager, I don't think you get much better, really.
Yeah.
You know, he's not playing any of the top sides. He's not, obviously, Liverpool, City are out the way. He's Arsenal. He's probably actually timed it so he didn't take that Arsenal game. So he's got a really nice run. So his CV will look great after, well, hopefully after them fixtures are over. But like I say, if you could design or wish for a run of fixtures, you know, he'd be absolutely delighted. He'd be made up that the young boy games is dead rubber. He'd be able to maybe experiment, or it's sort of like a free game to implement his ideas again, even more so into the players. And also, one thing I do want to say, when I watched his interview, and I'm sure everyone listening would have watched it as well, he come across so well, didn't he? He's come across so intelligent and so well and so clear. And, you know, I was watching it. He just spoke with so much conviction of he's so clear in what he wants. And
German mentality, though. I mean, most German people can communicate very well, and it's black and white. That's it. But I think what I got from that as well as the follow up on yours is, and I want to talk about this United philosophy in a minute, was that he and this is no disrespect to Ollie or Michael Carrick or any of those guys that come out. It was the same rhetoric every week. The boys are disappointed. We'll go again. We'll do this. We'll do that. Whereas this guy it was like being sat down and educated for 45 minutes or so about how football should be played. Are we getting overexcited about this? Or are we just, listen, we haven't had this in many years. You know, Van Gaal really had talked a good press conference. Jose spent his blaming everyone, and David Moyes was like a deer in the headlights, you know. So with this guy, it's just like, you are right. You can listen to him, can't you?
Yeah, he just sat there, his aura about him. He just spoke with such intelligence and conviction for me. They're the two words I'd say, really, coming away from it is, yeah, he just, like you say, when he spoke football, you just thought, yeah, this fella He
He
knows what he's
knows.
on about.
He gets it.
Yeah, he gets it. Yeah, he's got a clear idea. When he spoke about we've seen interviews of him in the past, and he speaks about the 5 ways of football, of in possession, out what you do with the ball, what you do without the ball, defensive and offensive transitions and set pieces, and it's spot on, And it's like he said about control, and you've got to train the players' minds and physical attributes and of how he wants to play, and that'll take time. I'm sure he's getting to where that would, and he's also got to try and get the current coaches to implement his ideas. He's got to sort of coach them of how he wants the lads to train and get his ideas across. But yeah, it's been a great start for him, and like I say, the fixtures have been very, very kind for him.
One of the things that he did say before we move on to the DNA question that I have here, one of the things that he did say that pleased me was he said that, a club should be made up of a structure of signings and youth team. One shouldn't cancel out the other. I mean, that must be music to the ears for those guys that are knocking on the door. I mean, we got some really Alanga, Hannibal, these guys that, are knocking on the door to get into that team are going all of a sudden, okay, so this manager wants to promote from within, as well as bring in, because we're not idiots. You can't just, long are gone the days of like the class of 92 or bringing people through like, Frank Lampard, Rio Ferdinand, Steven Gerrard, all in that whole era, because the tentacles reach out so far around the world, you're bringing in a lot of other players from overseas and stuff. But I was really happy to hear that he basically said that, it's not mutually exclusive, that, it's not that basically you don't just do like what City do. They go out and they buy everyone they can, and we're led to believe that they have the best academy, but yet you see nothing coming through, nothing at all, with the exception of Foden. That's really it. Everyone else they bought. I'm happy to hear that, because, and I'm not one of these nostalgic people that go, oh, Manchester United, we always have to have players coming through the youth. No, we have good players that need to come through if they're good enough and to be given the chance. And when they get that chance, to take that chance. I think we've got a crop of very young players at the moment that I think are more than capable of stepping up. Now, better than anyone that playing in reserve football and then playing for the first team is a massive leap. I'm just glad that he said that I'm open to that as much as I am to signing players. What did you think of those comments?
Yeah, well, I think that goes hand in hand with about what you're going to say about what is the Man United DNA, and that's a huge, huge part of it. I agree with your point that I don't think it'll ever happen again, the class of 92, especially in the modern day where you get that many, 5, 6 players all coming in, being first team regulars within the first 6 months of coming up from the youth team. That won't happen anywhere in the world, really. I know Barcelona have got a great academy and a great record of playing academy players, but not even they put that many players from the same youth team. You think of like the Busby Babes, that era, Samat Busby and the youth players, Duncan Edwards, obviously Ferguson. He followed that on with not just the class of 92, but so many other players. You could go, the list is endless of players. Might not make it as Man United regulars, but the players who had careers in the game, whether that be Premier League, Championship, down the lower leagues. It's incredible, really, and that's what I think. There's no doubt the production line at Man United is better than any other club by far. I believe in the country. And yeah, it was refreshing for them to say that and enforce that. And like you say, if you were a young player at that club now, you'd be rubbing your hands together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're on cloud 9.
You'd be turning up early. You'd be doing all you could to impress him to get.
Yeah, because now you have a chance. Because as we know, sometimes when a manager comes in, Mourinho was a prime example of that. Even though Mourinho, he listed out all the players that he started, we all knew Mourinho's only focus was the first team. That's all it was. First time, and that was it. I'm glad that we know. Ollie was a big believer, because I mean, he coached you. He was your manager at Manchester United. He's a big believer in the academy, and this is the thing that he won't get credit for right away. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, is that he's left a really, really solid foundation there for the next manager. I think we discussed this on air and off air, that the fruits of his labor really won't be seen for another couple of years, because he came in and the whole house was burnt to the ground, and he had to build it up from the inside. So he doesn't get the credit for that, because people, it's a results business. It's the only job people think you have is the first team. But at Manchester United, when he came in, because of what Mourinho did, he had 2 jobs to do. He had to build the club back up internally, and then he had to build it on the pitch. And that's where I want to change over to the DNA question. And it's going to be split in two here, because we just talked about the DNA within the club, which is to promote from within. I understand that part. But Patrice Evra came out with a quote during the week saying that he's confused why Manchester United basically brought in Rangnick. You know, we have a DNA at Manchester United of how we're playing. Now we're going to be playing this pressing game. That's not Manchester United. That's not the DNA. I took a personal offense to that. I'm like, well, what is an on-pitch DNA these days? You know, football has changed and evolved so much in the past 20 years that if you don't evolve with it, you're gone. It's why Arsene Wenger quit. You know, he said the game had gone. It had changed so much that he just had enough. Alex Ferguson, if he was being truthful, he probably would say that the game has completely changed. Players are much harder to control. You know, people that are on 200 grand a week are hard to motivate. I get that. But the style of play on the pitch, it's not exclusive to attack for Manchester United, right? Not nowadays.
No, I can completely agree. And on the DNA, United are probably one of the only clubs where they're quite lucky, and it's through the great managers, it stayed reasonably consistent. It was only when obviously Ferguson left, but that was Ferguson's DNA. It was only Ferguson, Matt Busby, and a couple of managers in between who had that. You know, Man City's DNA isn't tiki-taka Pep Guardiola. That's Pep Guardiola's DNA. Yeah. You know, Liverpool of the past in the 80s and the successful Liverpool teams wasn't the same DNA as Jurgen Klopp.
Today, yeah.
You know, it's like you say, so I completely agree with what you say. Football moves on. You've got to move with the times. And the challenge for Man United is, and I think that's why Ferguson is being so successful and such a great manager, is he moved with the times, but he was always on top. So whether that was, you know, I'm sure when he coached first started, even at the start of my career, really, most teams played 4-4-2, pretty direct. Now all of a sudden you've got teams playing 3 at the back, 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1.
It's confusing at times.
Yeah, no, but that's just how it's gone, and you know, it's not for the. I think it's better, you know, different tactical styles, how teams playing out from the, you know, the introduction of centre backs going into the box. That's a change to the game. So I don't think you can just be. Is it a bit lazy thinking? I think I'm with you. I think you've got to. The game's clearly moved on. You've got to move with the time, with the times.
Wayne brings up a good point. Busby, Doherty, Ferguson, all 3 historically entertaining eras. All different systems and style. Closest comparison between Doc and Fergie's 4-4-2, 77 to 94. I would agree with that. You know, it's and it was the exact point you were making, is that, you know, we've only had a couple of managers throughout the years that, you know, throughout the decades that have kind of played that very similar football. Mourinho wasn't. Mourinho was a don't lose was his DNA.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it never really got, because again, United have always, and Ferguson especially, if you score 3, we'll score 4. You know, you've got to attack with pace, crosses in the box, getting people off the seats. Mourinho was get 1-0. That was how he's always coached that. Chelsea, Inter Milan, Real Madrid. Maybe Real Madrid, he's got a slight exception, but he had an unbelievable squad. But that was his style, especially in the Premier League. Even with Tottenham, you know, we've seen it after United. So, you know, that never quite fit what you would say would be the Man United DNA. But yeah, no, you've got to move at the times. You've got to maybe adapt it slightly. But what on Evra's quote about pressing, Man United pressed under Alex Ferguson. Yeah. I remember the quote saying that without the ball, you'd have to be like in fact, I actually remember Ole Gunnar Solskjaer telling us in a reserve game once that the boss, obviously Sir Alex Ferguson, used to say to them, how obviously with the ball you've got to attack, crossing the box, get the ball wide, pace, or energy, all that stuff. But if you can press like a League 2 team off the ball, then we've got no worries whatsoever. So United have always pressed. You think David Beckham, Giggs, Paul Ince, Brian Robson, Keane, think they sat deep? And of course, there'll be times in a game where you have to. You're on top. But the main priority for all them players and teams is to be on the front foot, to get in the opposition's face and press. Just the terminology's changed now, Dave. That's what a lot of it is. Gegen press and high press. This was closing down 15 years ago and getting in people's faces. It's just people used fancy words now, and it's just it means all the same stuff.
Well, for the first 30, 35 minutes today, it was as you know, it was relentless with United. It was just attack it. It wasn't attack it. It was just press. They kept getting the ball back. It it was very pleasing and very, it was nice to watch. But obviously, we know that you can't do that for 90 minutes. You just can't. I mean, I can see Manchester United again to a stage where they can maybe do it for the first 50 or 60 minutes, get up to that level of fitness. But to expect that for 90 minutes is not going to happen. And I can see maybe a situation whereby we get to a place where we try and score a couple of goals within that 50, 60 minutes, and then we revert back to, defending that lead, that 1-2, 3-0 or whatever it is. That's how I can see this team developing. I don't see this thing, and I've seen it on social media about the press. I'm like, that's not possible for 90 minutes. No. It really isn't. I don't think you can actually get a team to be that fit to press for 90 minutes. It makes no sense. So I'm kind of cooling my jets on the excitement of all that. But, we've had a really shitty time this season so far, and it's good to be, 2 games in a row now. We've won both games. We're on a nice little run we are right now. The Chelsea game, we could have snuck it in the end. We could have won it, It fell to Fred. The only one that wanted that ball to fall to Fred were the Chelsea team. So we're on a nice little run now. But the one thing I wanted to just jump in here as well, while we're talking about DNA, is on our channel, Talking to Devils, Wayne and Paddy Barclay actually have a series now of looking back through, all the way through the decades. They started off in Wayne's decade when he was born in the 40s. He's not on today, so we can't say anything about that. So he says, "Evening, guys. Hope you're well on the DNA thing. The history series I'm doing with Paddy Barclay on the channel has a corker of a quote in a few episodes. No spoilers. So if you guys haven't seen it, it's phenomenal. Get on there. It'll teach you so much about Manchester United down through the decades. And Wayne has done an absolutely phenomenal job on doing that series with Paddy. And we're always grateful for Paddy's time as well. So I just wanted to chip in there and let you know that he was born in the 40s as well. So moving on. What's your expectations? We've only been in this for 2 games. Football fans are the most fickle in the world. I don't have to tell you that. You hear it every week when you're playing. 1 minute you're great, the next you're the shittiest player in the world. I mean, you spoke about your time at Leeds United. All of you, you're great, and all of a sudden, Leeds start losing, and it's all your fault because you play for Manchester United. As you can see, I'm a little bit jolly. You're probably seeing from my text, I'm a little bit happy because that's where I am with Manchester United. It's highs and lows. It's a great start. It's a great run. What would you be happy with, at season's end with this team and with this manager?
I think he's got to try and win the FA Cup. I think it'll be tough for him to win the Champions League, but it's doable. You'd only have to look at Chelsea last year. I do think the United squad is
Cup competition.
Yeah, I do think the United squad is still a very, very good squad. You think about people like Anthony Martial, who splits opinion, but there's no doubt on his quality. He obviously hasn't produced a consistency, but he's not even getting talked about at the minute. I think if they could win the Cup, FA Cup or Champions League, would be incredible, and a top 4 finish, I think, would be, from where they are, where he picked up the team, I think would be an unbelievable season. I think.
You said Champions League and FA Cup, and
I like that. He won't win both. He won't win both. Sorry, one of them.
No, I want to ask this question as a professional footballer yourself. I have my own opinion about what I regard as the main trophies. Okay, for me, it's the league. For me, it's the FA Cup. And for me, then it's the Champions League. Because I think the Champions League has been so watered down over the years that it's just you're supposed to say that the team that wins it is the best team in Europe. But let's be honest, Chelsea weren't the best team in Europe last year. It's a cup competition. Anything can happen. There's years when teams win it and you shake your head. You go, how did they win it? So for me, it's always been the league is the pinnacle. You win your own league, but if you win your own league in Spain and in England, I think it's far harder than winning it in France and in Italy and places. Although Italy has its own competition right now. In what order would you put trophies?
I think I would go. I think league, because I think that's where you get your consistency over 30 plus games.
Yep.
Like you said, the other 2 cup competitions. But I think in the current day, I would go Champions League second, FA Cup third, personally.
From a I don't know. I think I'd need to split. It's from like a reward standpoint. The Champions League is obviously better. than the FA Cup. But for me, historically, my FA Cup is my thing.
I think it's possibly a generational thing. Like you said, you grow up. I just think the FA Cup now, I'm not going to say it's lost its way, because it is such an amazing. It's the best domestic cup competition in the world for sure. But you see a lot of teams now, the attendances are down.
Do you think, though, over recent years it's started to come back? Because, I would definitely agree with you 3 or 4 years ago when they started to, it was all about Champions League. That's all it was, because of the money. But I definitely have seen a change over the past season or two with the FA Cup. Teams are starting to take it a lot more serious, which is, for me, is a shame.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I say, I do think teams should take it more serious. But, I'm only going off what I've seen. You see, I'm not going to say teams treat it like the League Cup, but you do see a decent amount of, in the League Cup, all the Premier League teams basically make 11 changes, really, don't they? Teams use it as a bit of players who aren't playing, need a game to
keep them happy.
And I think what you said there about the money, I think the money in the Champions League has just elevated that now to such an important competition and such a prestigious one. With you look at it like the clubs who are constantly always in the Bayern Munich, Barcelona's, Real Madrid's.
You get something like 250,000 a point in the Champions League stage. I think that's the money. So for every win, it's something like 750 grand.
It's huge, isn't it? It's absolutely huge. So.
Not always good though, because it does bring its own problems when the focus is taken off the FA Cup and for teams that are in England and places like that to go in their Champions League. But bad time with Vaughan ask you a question: what medal would you prefer in your table, Champions League or FA Cup? I think you've answered that. You've said the Champions League.
Champions League. Comfortably the Champions League.
FA Cup for me. I could buy a Champions League medal off eBay. So, to wrap this up. You're into the next round of the FA Cup. The draw's on tomorrow, I believe, at noon time here. So 8 o'clock, I believe, Monday. You're number 48. Home draw against Manchester United, away draw against Manchester United. What would be your preferred if you were given the choice? Home or away?
No brainer. Away, 100%. Old Trafford. Easy.
That'll be some game. It's going to happen. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. You're either going to get them or you're going to get Liverpool. That's what I see. Would the family be happy with Liverpool?
No, probably not.
Because I know I think you said your granddad and your dad, both Everton fans.
Yeah, that's right.
So they'll definitely be in the away end if it was at Anfield.
That's the way Everton are going at the minute. I think we might have a decent chance against Everton, actually.
Yeah, my God, yeah. The director of football, I think, is quitting today. So
just not, yeah.
But in the league, having a bit of a tough time.
Who have
you guys got up next?
We've got Sunderland on Tuesday, which is obviously a huge game. Stadium of Light, top stadium. Only in the Premier League, not so long ago. So shows you that it's a good league. It's a tough league. You got Wigan, Ipswich, Charlton, Sunderland. Got Sheffield Wednesday. Got some huge clubs in the division. So it'll be a good game. But they're in League One as well for a reason. So the gap between the difference in quality isn't like the Premier League. Let's say you've got the sort of three at the minute who are not running away with it, but who look like they're going to contest the Premier League. And then you obviously got your Arsenal, United, West Ham's, and then there's a huge gap, I would say, between say a Burnley, Newcastle, Norwich. Whereas League One, there is a gap, of course, but it's nowhere near as big as the Premier League.
No, it's like the Championship. I mean, the Championship each year, you'll get maybe one team that'll be standout, but then, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, all the way down to even 12, 13. There's only a handful of games in the difference. And that's why it's always very difficult to get out of the Championship. And that's why when Premier League teams go down there, they don't always automatically come back up because, number one, they're a scalp. And number two, it's a lot tougher down there. And the teams that are around them, like you said, the gap isn't as wide in regard to how good they are. But big game against Sunderland.
Well, like you say, we've got Sunderland on Tuesday, and you think Sunderland in League One, they should have got out. I think this is their third or fourth season in League One, and it's just never that easy. Like you say, for them exact reasons, it's everyone's biggest game. You go into the Stadium of Light; it's a Premier League ground, really. So it's your biggest game of the season, probably. Everyone probably raises the game. It's never that easy. The football's different. It's more of a scrap, So yeah, it's like you say, it's never that easy. So I'm sure this is Sunderland's Must be the 3rd year. I'm sure it is. Maybe the 4th.
I believe it is. 2nd or 3rd year for definite. Yeah,
Oh.
definitely is. All right, Scott, I won't keep you any longer on this. I appreciate you coming on as usual. Again, anyone that's listening, watching in, we appreciate it. We appreciate the questions. People on Twitter looking in. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Myself and Scott would definitely appreciate it. Not sure about next week. My son has his referee's course next week, so I may not be around on the Sunday, but we'll try and figure something out anyway for next weekend. Scott, best of luck this week. Even more so tomorrow when I'm just so anticipating this draw tomorrow. I have a feeling it's going to happen. I really do. I really do. And if not, I hope you get a home draw against, a team division or, lower down to give you another chance at that. But, in order for, you can't be wishing for Manchester United to win the FA Cup because then that eliminates you guys. So I'll be wishing for you guys to win the FA Cup. So again, thanks everyone for joining in. I appreciate it, and have the good rest of your evening.